What is up, everybody? My name is James D. Fiore, and this is Blackballed. I remember once I was on the Dean Blundell show, and I made a hard pivot as a joke. I'm like, why don't we just talk about something that's really easy to talk about, like abortion? I did it for a laugh because, obviously it's a polarizing issue. Today, Danielle Smith invoked the notwithstanding clause to cement her and her party's view on transgender issues and the health care associated with transgender youth. I have decided to be a little bit more professional tonight and give the platform to David Wallace, who'll be running as a candidate in Alberta in the next election, whenever that happens to be, and leave my opinions to the side. No one cares what I think, anyways. But I think this issue is just one of those issues where I understand why people right of center or moderates even get really frustrated with it. I get that. There's some, paradoxical scientific elements to this and biological elements to this. I understand why the far left get a little bit uppity about it because they think that, people are being bullied when they're already a minority. I'm not going to say which side I think is more correct or not. I think people that have watched me for years know which side I'm on. However, here to give his opinion on not just what this issue is all about, but Danielle Smith's strategic, the notwithstanding clause, is the political dark arts specialist himself. His name is David Wallace. David, how are you, buddy?
Can't complain, James. Been a full day, but can't complain.
Yeah. So listen, you and I have different styles, probably different takes on issues like this. So today, Danielle Smith, she issued the she invoked the notwithstanding clause in order to, I think, what she would say, protect transgender youth from permanently damaging their health, their sexuality, their identities. Even that's the stance that her party is taking on what gender affirming care centers and surgeries and puberty blockers and hormone treatments and all that. Their position is that it can do significant and long-term damage to people who identify as with. Can I, what is your opinion on this? Like, what would you say to people, like to young people who are confused or who believe that they are male or female when they are biologically the opposite? Because there are real people that are being impacted here, and I think both sides are trying to help them. I really do. But I'm wondering what your position is on this.
I think what people do when they're adults is their own business, and I think that things like gender affirming care, I think if it comes out of your own pocket when you're an adult, then more power to you. I have no problem with that. But I wasn't born a dragon, and I don't think I can get dragon affirming surgery. What I'm saying is,
you could be a dragon queen.
Well, there you go. But what I'm saying is, whatever people choose to do as adults is their business. However, when the associated costs of these surgeries are passed on to everyone, I think that is socialism. Beyond socialism, it's radical socialism, and that pisses me off.
The UK went through something similar to what Alberta is sort of like embarking on right now when they closed. I'm sorry, I forget the name. But they closed the top gender affirming care center clinic, or whatever you want to call it, in the United Kingdom, because there's finally long-term studies on the treatments that they are giving people that identify as being trans when they're really young. And those long-term studies concluded that best case scenario, a lot of these situations are inconclusive, but some of them are conclusively damaging to the mental health, especially of some of these kids that are confused about their gender identity. Mm-hmm. And so they closed it down. And by the way, the UK is not a conservative bastion inside the Western world. Like, we're talking about a country that's arresting people for Facebook posts and
Yeah.
shit like that. Like this, you know what I mean? And Scandinavian countries also have done this as well. Once you take a good look at it and you get past the like bumper sticker statements about how, oh, you're trying to erase people and we exist. No one is saying that, but you got to look at data. And if you know, they say that, and I know this is going to seem, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or cute when I say this, but one of the things that they have absolutely discovered is that most kids, especially that go through puberty blockers and things like that, once they get of age and they're in their 20s and stuff, they can no longer achieve orgasm and things like that. So it like ruins their sex life when they get older. Um, and I think that wait till you're, at least the voting age or something. I don't understand why that is such a problem. Why are we experimenting on children by changing their gender artificially?
And why are the people who are leading the charge and who are so vociferous and so insistent on this, why are they not the ones that are undergoing the surgery? They're the activists and the cheerleaders.
David, keep
But
talking because I got to turn off that fan. Give me a second.
by and large, it's not them undergoing the surgeries. That's why people wait till they're adults to make these type of decisions, or they should. And you're saying if there's a difference between the age of 14 and 18, if you take puberty, a difference of what? Of what? If a person reaches adulthood and chooses to, I don't even know the word, you can't change your sex or your gender. I'm sorry. You're born a man or a woman. That's the way it is. Now, you can change your body's appearance and how it functions to um, live as a trans person. That's your choice, and you should have that choice, and you should face no discrimination for that. What I'm saying is keep your hands off kids. Let people grow up. And is 18 the right age? I don't know. Is it the right age to be able to vote? Is it the right age to give kids cars at 16, but not be able to own a fire? I mean, we're all over the place, but we do need to find a benchmark where we're responsible, but we don't cause damage or harm. Because people do change their minds. Maybe they don't, but what about those who do? And if you read some of the articles and a lot of the data which has emerged over the years, there are many, 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 many trans people who regret deeply the treatment they received before they were adults and they thought they could make a decision which would affect the rest of their lives. Not to say
Yeah,
that
that's one of the taboo subjects is the detransitioning community.
yes.
The people that their mental health. And listen, I think it's good to be redundant when we preface this by saying that these
Look
are
just a second,
human.
James. Look in the chat. Accomplished dog. One of Nate's or one of their friends. I'm a dipshit. I'm a dipshit because I believe that we should keep our hands off children. I'm sorry, but I believe that we should protect our kids, and I believe that the moral degradation of society. All right, moral
Don't
degradation
listen to that. That
of society.
that guy's just
No, no,
trolling
no.
you.
But what
Like
I'm going to
honestly,
say
like
is people who push kids and use them for their own causes. If they want to transition, let them make that decision when they're adults. Adults. I'm not saying they shouldn't. Hell, I'm not saying everybody doesn't have the right to be happy and no one should face discrimination. But let kids figure it out. Being a teenager is supposed to be tough.
this is a largely generational issue as well because so my mom, I've said this on the podcast before, my mom played softball. She's straight, but every single one of her teammates was gay. They were all lesbians, right? And so like every other weekend there would be a baseball or softball party at my house because we had a pool and stuff. And so I grew up with like literally like this harem, maybe harem's not the right word, with this tribe of lesbians that like, and I would talk to them all the time. So and then when this issue started peaking up over the years, I reached out to a couple of them like years ago, like 5, 6 years ago or something. And I asked them about it. I was just like, what is your take on this? And they're like, they all said the same thing. I'm so happy I grew up when I did, because if I didn't, I'd be pressured to become trans these days
Yep.
because I was a tomboy. I was stocky. I could beat up boys. I had short hair. You know what I mean? I spit like a guy playing baseball and all that shit. But I'm a woman I'm just like, I'm a top. I'm in the gay community. And that's how it differentiates from generation to generation. So now,
But not even
if
just
you like,
generations, James. It's not just a question of generations. We're trying to mix up sexuality and transitioning. And I'm sorry, but it's not the same issue. Nobody's
you know what I find, David, you know what I find annoying, and I know this is going to come off as awful to some people, the ones who transition to be females just to be lesbians. I just find that
well,
like
whatever
you took
floats
the
your
long route,
boat.
bud.
It's odd,
I
but
just,
whatever floats your boat, but odd to us, right? Maybe not
I
odd to
guess so.
them.
Yeah.
But they made those decisions. If you make a decision when you're an adult, then you live with it. You either regret it or you embrace it. And that's fine. And that's the way it should be. But it certainly shouldn't happen before you're the age to make those decisions. Now, are you ready to make that life changing decision 18? I would argue no. I don't think we're ever ready to make a decision like that. But if you take those steps, at least society has done its best to ensure that you have enough time and information at your disposal to make a decision that you can live with. That's it.
Politically, do you think Danielle Smith made the right call with invoking the notwithstanding clause for these issues?
She had to. Absolutely. This is her base. Her base, and may I remind these people, the base, which was the majority of Albertans who gave her a mandate, have asked for this. They've asked for this. Now, I may not agree with everything the separatists or Republicans or political terrorists in Alberta spout and push. This was one of the very clear tenets that the citizens who voted for Danielle Smith brought up. This is what they wanted. So I think that this was the call she had to make.
Not only that, but honestly, if you really look at polling, like people are afraid to talk about this issue publicly.
Sure they are.
But if you look at polling, it's like 80-20 against surgeries for minors,
Yep.
against biological males in women's sports, against biological males in women's prisons and rape crisis center. It's not
That
really
shit,
close.
that stuff is sick. I'm sorry.
I don't know,
belong.
David. I don't know why. I don't know why the mainstream media has adopted the farthest of the far left viewpoint on this
On
issue.
everything.
I don't really understand
On
it.
everything, it seems, doesn't it?
Well, on this issue in particular, like it's like there's no like voice out there that's like, maybe when you're young and someone offers you the choice of dozens of genders, you might not normally pick one, but then you might because you're given the salad bar and you're going to pick the pickled beets because someone's offering it to you, but you don't really know if you should, but you just do it. Like did you notice that there hasn't been an outpouring of people from the 70s, 80s, and 90s who come out, who are like our age or older, a little bit younger, whatever, who come out and go like this, oh, finally, I can admit that I'm trans, which they would if they were, right? Like if you were trans in the 80s or 90s and you couldn't come out because of the way that, it was in school, you get bullied and all that. Now that we're living in the age that we're living, why aren't there like thousands of people going, oh, I was trans in the 90s and I couldn't admit it, but now I can? No one's saying that because it wasn't an option. And when we give kids and they're confused, they might take it. And I'm not discounting the people that really legitimately feel like they're born in the wrong body. They exist and they should be cared for and they should be loved. However, I don't think my children, my daughter, dude, is so stereotypical. She loves pink and princesses and shit like that. That's what she, and I never pushed that shit on her. I live in the sticks. If anything, I pushed back.
Dude,
pushed
and if your
aggressive
son
on her.
loved pinks, if your son loved pink and princess, that's fine too.
I
That's
know,
not
but
the issue here.
what I'm saying is my children seem to fall very, very specifically in the generic stereotypical male female boxes of truck. One side is trucks in Minecraft and the other side is princesses and fucking girly shit. And I pushed basketball on both of them. So I don't know how it just happened, right? Like it wasn't a social construct. I used to say this to gender activists all the time. Gender is not a social construct. Society is a gender construct. Because we're naturally
I think we've
in our
lost the
slots.
plot. I'm sorry,
No.
but I think we've just lost the plot. I really do. I think that this far left terroristic agenda has gone far enough. I think issues such as this, which has been pushed down the throats of the Canadian public for God damn, it seems like at least a solid decade now. Listen, how many cities are going to go broke? You've got a new mayor in New York City who wants to pay for illegal immigrants to have gender affirming surgery. Our healthcare system is falling apart. Why? Because of irresponsible immigration, because of the welfare state that has been created, because of a society where people need a safe space and they are afraid to stand up and say, you know what, this is offside. This is not the way I want to live. Other people want to live a certain way. That's fine. But the real minority in this country are people who wish to speak their mind. They're not allowed to because the entire conversation is drowned out by flaming activists.
That a little bit. It was worse a few years ago than it is now. It is actually, I think personally, it's getting better. I don't care that guy got elected in New York. There was a whole bunch of Democrats that were moderate, that were anti-socialist, that got elected too during those by-elections. I think that it was Patton Oswalt was on Bill Maher's podcast the other day, and he was talking about how just before something dies, it becomes the loudest, and it starts flailing. And it happened when the civil rights bill was passed in the 60s in the United States. That's when the fire hoses came out, just before the civil rights bill passed, because they were like, oh my God, we're about to lose something because they're gaining something. I think what's happening now is that the whole woke movement, and I don't care how you feel about the word woke. What I mean when I say that is completely fucking ideological, and to the point where you don't even look at logic kind of stuff. Um, when they are now being the loudest about certain issues, I think that it's probably about to die. Like, there's no one that I know, no human being that I know in person that's like this. I think it's fine that biological men play women's sports. What's wrong with that? There's nobody I know that thinks that. There really isn't.
Nobody thinks that. It's an abomination. It's abomination. And what it does is it destroys the integrity of athletic events across the board. You want your daughter or sister to come in second, third, or lose a scholarship because some guy wants to come in and pretend to be a girl and win a competition. Look, man, compete against men. You're a biological male. All right. That's it. Not discriminating against you. What we're doing is discriminating against the females who are trying to compete here. That's who we're discriminating against. And we're making a mockery of women's athletics.
It is a little strange. Like, I think there's no arguing my following point. It's not my point. It's just a point that I think a lot of people agree with. You're more of a feminist if you want to protect women from biological males in women's spaces. You are less of a feminist if you think that biological males deserve a place in women's spaces. And why that's not obvious to everybody is beyond me. Like, the fact that, like, you should, the prisons in the UK where people were like, at their sentencing was like, I identify as a woman, and then they go and they rape women in women's prisons. Like, how, a no penis rule in prison isn't unreasonable. It's a women's prison. Like, it's not unreasonable. Like, just make that the rule, and we should be fine. This issue touches so many things. And I know that the left like to say that the right is using it as a trope. Oh, they said the same thing about gay people in bathrooms in the 70s. This isn't that, dude. And you know what the funny thing is, David?
But
I've been saying this for years. It's not it's not a trans women issue. I'll tell you what it is. This has such a big loophole and a Trojan horse scenario for predatorial straight males to become imposters, co-opt the trans identity, and harm women. That's what we've done. And in order to get away from that, all we have to do is stop pretending that trans women are women just by saying I identify. That's not that can't cut it. And when it comes to kids, we can't risk the long-term health and sexuality of kids, based on this type of emotional politicking.
No, and that's what it is. It's emotional politicking, and we do have to set down some pretty. I mean, listen, we've gone off the rails. We've gone off the rails as a society. We are tolerating far too much bullshit, and I think the vast majority of the a silent majority in Canada, are fed up with it. All right.
Mhm.
This isn't a gay issue. And to be fair and quite honest, you've had conservative politicians who, for decades, discriminated against gays and lesbians. They made their life intolerable, living hell, and they were fucking bastards for doing so. Look at Jason Kenney, who was in San Francisco, what he did. His actions were fucking disgraceful, all because he was ashamed of himself and his sexuality and all the religion and the bullshit that got in his fucked up head. We did discriminate against gays, and we fucking created an environment that was so toxic and so disgusting that unfortunately now people are willing to bend and bend and bend. And what do we have? We got 75 different fucking genders and people identifying as blue attack helicopters. It's time to get some fucking sanity back in the world, man.
If there was a reality show about a cult leader who had a sausage party as a dinner party and they all wore dresses, they would freak out unless they called it the Last Supper, and then it would be fine.
And it would be fine.
It'd be okay at the end of the day.
It's true.
These are the issues that anytime you invoke religion for an issue, by the way, it's not a good idea.
Oh.
Like I was saying to people, first of all, I'm not a fervent atheist. I'm just absolutely a non-believer. I'm pro-choice in a way that is like, I don't think you should put women in jail for having an abortion. That's how I'm pro-choice.
No.
But when my kids were born, I'm pro-life when it comes to my fucking kids. Like if I knocked up like I'm single now. If I had intercourse and procreated with, a very nice whatever, if I knock someone up, and she was like, I want to have an abortion, I'd be like, it's your choice, but I'm there for this because it's my kid. If you want to ask me my opinion, I'll tell you I have an abortion. I can't really do nothing about it, but when it comes to my own kids, I'm totally pro-life. So anyways, my point is when you invoke religion to this trans argument, it becomes like the right they're not doing themselves any favors. It's not the whole God didn't make Adam and Steve, he made Adam. Like fuck off. Like just relax. Or tearing down rainbow flags and shit. Like they kick themselves in the face often and put their foots in their mouths when they argue about this shit. What they should be doing is just making it a healthcare issue and a mental health issue.
Absolutely. That's what it is. It's a healthcare issue. It's a healthcare issue. And I'm sorry, if you're looking at this, the cost to transition should not be a cost that is borne by the entire populace. I'm sorry, it's an elective surgery. You're saying it's gender affirming. Well, maybe it affirms it to you, but it doesn't affirm it there is no such thing as gender affirming surgery. There isn't. You're one or the other. All right. Now you can live any way you like. I'm not going to discriminate against you. But if you were Steve before and want to call yourself Janet, I'll call you Janet. And I respect your choice. But don't pretend you're a female or a male biologically. You're not. Okay? I'm sorry. I don't mean I don't hate anybody. I don't, and I don't discriminate against you. But I don't share your belief. I don't share your belief. You don't share mine. And that's fine in a democracy.
It was the self-ID part of trans ideology and gender activism that really made it problematic. Like where anybody could just wake up and raise their hand and be like, woman, any guy could just do that, and they'd be like, the deference paid to there are certain states and countries where it's like where the self-ID law is even considered. Do therapy first. You have to then, like as adults, you have to then take hormones. You then have to have the operation. You can't just be this fat biker bearded guy with a big giant schlong and walk around women's change room and just declare yourself a woman. Like that type of shit is like, I mean, it's so offside. Like it's not, and they think they're doing the right thing. The people that support this shit by, I don't want to question their validity and their existence as a human being. It's like, why don't you give your head a shake and just like question your own like ability to ascertain a situation? Like this is not right. It's not normal.
When do we stop? If we have gender affirming surgery that everybody else has to pick up the fucking pay on, if we have that, what other type of surgery do we have? Look at the one doctor there, the guy who sawed his fucking legs off. Do we have to have height affirming surgery? Is that what we need? I'm asking.
Shouldn't one day incels are going to demand the right for penile enhancement surgery? They're just going to, you know what I mean?
Well, let's keep going. You just said that. So if you're born, say you got a micro penis, say the fucking thing just ain't big enough. Do you should you get an implant or should you get something put? I don't know. A shock. When does it
Portuguese
stop? When
Portuguese
does it
women
stop?
everywhere will sign up for the robotic Kegel machine. I'm kidding.
At the end of
I
the
love
day, it's all
Portuguese women.
cosmetic surgery. No matter which way you go, it's cosmetic surgery. It's
Mm.
what it is. It's what's inside that matters. That's all. Be who you are and live your life. I mean, we can't all be exactly the way we want to be, but the best part of life is finding that balance inside yourself. Gay, straight, doesn't matter. Be you. Be you. And
Yeah.
we don't have to make these decisions when we're children. I mean, I'm 54 years old. Hell, I'm still figuring out who the hell I am. Let the kids be kids. That's what I'm saying. And if they choose
Well,
to make this decision when they're adults, let's support them as best we can. That's what I'm saying. That's
yeah,
it.
the self ID stuff. There was that gentleman in BC that didn't refer to his son who became his daughter. He didn't use the correct pronouns, and they put him in fucking jail.
It's
Like,
fucking insane. It's insane. It's
so
insane.
I posted something like because it came up the other day. Someone sent it to me like this was hilarious. This was like 2021, I think, or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but so it was the story about the guy who went to jail because he didn't use the right pronouns for his transgender daughter, and I quote tweeted it and wrote, just for those keeping score at home, if he called her a worthless fucking cunt, he'd be out of jail. But because he called her a him, he's in jail. So that's where we are as a society, right? Like,
That's where we are as a society. And I think that's what needs to change. People need to have the courage of their convictions and they need to stand up. Now, we've seen the socialist left media have a tizzy, and this is tailor made for Mr. Nenshi to campaign because that's what he does. This is his base. His base are the people who try to find outrage at every corner.
they're
That's
shrinking,
the
dude.
base.
They're shrinking. That honestly, that's how
They
it,
are
like
shrinking.
we may be animated and a little bit hyperbolic about it, and like we're joking around, and I'm using crass words about stuff, but just to be like level headed again, as I started off the podcast, if you ask people and you poll them, and it's anonymous, and no one will know what they said, they agree with Danielle Smith on this issue, by and large.
Absolutely. Gay, straight, bi, green, blue, fucking purple for March. You know what people really care about? They really care about? They care about being able to pay their bills, to pay their rent, to pay
And the
their mortgage,
Epstein
have
file.
enough what? Yeah, they care about being able to afford their groceries, right? I don't care
Yeah.
who you are. That's what they care about. And these other issues that are rammed down our throat, these sensational issues which are put up to divide us, distract us from the facts that our governments at every level, all over the place, are severely dropping the ball. We've got problems, and those problems aren't going to be saved by gender affirming surgeries. Maybe we need some goddamn fiscal affirming surgeries here because we're on a pretty slippery slope here, people. I think it's time to smarten up and pay attention to what really matters, which is making sure that Alberta is an attractive place for business to come so we can grow the economy, so we can get the potential of the petrochemical industry unlocked to the max and bring jobs back and turn Alberta back into the economic engine that powers this country to a better future. A future that includes trans people, gay people, black people, white people, yellow people. We all need to eat, and we're not going to do that while we chew on outrage.
Just a blackball disclaimer: we're not going to eat trans people, gay people, black
No,
people,
not at
or
all. Unless that's your thing. And I mean, whatever.
My daughter. I'll leave it with this. My daughter said the other day. She's like, "Daddy, I was watching a Lego movie." She's 9, right? But she looks like she's 5 because she's so little. She's like, "Daddy, I was watching the Lego movie the other day. Everything's plastic. So when a Lego person eats an apple, is that a form of cannibalism?" And I just started laughing. I just like, I guess. She's like, "Because Daddy, what if an apple in our world was made of skin and flesh?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Then I don't know. Then it's called I don't know what to tell you." Right? She's like, so she wants me to write the Lego people and and as a joke, complain about Lego cannibalism for eating plastic apples. So just wanted to come on,
There
man.
you go. Well, hey,
Give my daughter her flowers. Come on.
absolutely. No, it's look, that's the thing. That's kids, right? And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe she loves Lego. Maybe tomorrow she wakes up and she doesn't want to touch it again. And then 5 years down the road, she's in love with it again. My point here being is let's give kids, especially through those most difficult years where everything is fucked up, teenage years, let's give them the chance to sort through and be there for them, right? Be there absolutely. And being there may include psychologists, doctors' visits, whatever. But we need to let them figure it out. And once they reach
I,
the age of maturity, then let them make their decisions based on facts and how they feel. That's it.
when my ex was pregnant with my daughter, I was sort of a little bit of a sentence when my daughter was still in utero because I'm Italian. I'm 50% Italian, but when I found out I was having a daughter, my percentage skyrocketed to like 8,000% Italian because I became really protective and stuff. And so I decided that like everyone was like, "Oh, James, are you going to accept your child because they're either born gay or they're born straight?" I'm like, "I get it." So I would like sing Katie Lang songs and play Ellen while she was in the womb because I wanted her to be gay so goddamn bad. Like I still do. I absolutely.
Jesus.
I just don't want her to deal with shitty men. I wanted to deal with emotional women. I
Well,
don't want her
if
to deal
she's
with
gay,
shitty men.
she's got a 50% chance of dealing with shitty women, right? I mean,
I mean, I'm gonna
gender,
love her no matter what. Obviously, don't
that's
write me
it.
emails about how I'm like, cheapening the gay experience or anything like that. Gay people so much that I wish my daughter was gay so she wouldn't have to deal with cis men. Isn't that exactly what the left want? Me, whatever. Anyways, I truly,
Look, I think it'd be great.
yeah,
I think it'd be great if we could go back to a time where people could be friends, have great conversations. They could be
yeah.
neighbors, they could be coworkers, and not broach the topic of sexuality at all because it doesn't matter.
We'll do another show tomorrow and we'll talk about we'll shift focus to the United States because interesting how we always talk about how the conservatives eat their own in Canada. In the United States right now, MAGA is fractured, and it's about the Epstein files in Israel. And those two issues are like causing major rifts inside the Republican Party. That the most sensible Republican over the last week and a half has been Marjorie Taylor Greene, literally.
Absolutely, but those have been the triggers. What has really caused the rift, and we could circle back to what's going on in Alberta right now, is that Donald Trump, since he's come in, has backslid and avoided taking action on many issues that he swore would be day one, week one. Right now, Danielle Smith is taking that step. This is one of the things that was promised to her base. She's taking action on it. And I think at that point, I don't think there should be outrage. I think if you're a voter who voted for Danielle Smith, you should be pretty pleased. That's the way
Yep.
I see it.
David Wallace. Thanks for joining us, man.
Talio.
We'll talk again soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Yeah. So tomorrow, yeah, we'll do a show tomorrow about what's going on in the United States because the Epstein files should have been released today. I heard that the process is such where the Senate could still block uh, the entire file from being this. You know what? I've been thinking about this a lot lately about how American politics touches Canadian politics, and it really does. Alberta seems to be the province that is best suited to get along with the Trump administration. I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes there. I haven't heard much since that one trip that Smith took to Mar-a-Lago. I know she's been meeting with governors here and there since then. Doug Ford is persona non grata with the Trump administration because of those ads, which I didn't think anything was wrong with them. And Carney's budget really kind of indicates a pivot towards the EU and China. So there's a lot to talk about over the next few days. And until then,